give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
The key to quality and efficiency. Be a jewel. Professionalism is the jewel in the corporate crown.
Refresh Sri Lanka for a civic-minded society in association with 99X. LMD, the voice of business.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on youth entrepreneurship. And with us, we have the director of Sunmatch Company, Gowri Rajan. Gowri, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Ruwandi. Thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure joining.
Let's move on to start our discussion on youth entrepreneurship. So this has become quite a buzzword today, for politicians to business people to basically everyone. And everyone has different meanings and applications of the word youth entrepreneurship. So can we start off by giving us your definition of youth entrepreneurship?
Yeah, sure. Well, there are so many definitions to it, but I would look at the youth of today as seeing opportunities which we don't see. And they identify the consumer needs which are latent in nature. I say this because I also work with the youth, and once when we were doing a project with the interactors, a few of them, they just picked up my information from my LinkedIn and sent me a comprehensive profile of mine. I was quite taken back, but to see they had used the AI suggestive tool, which is the chat GPT, and they came up with it. So I do pick talents like that, and I do use them even for some of our company works as well. So this is the skill set that I feel which the youth have using the technology as an enabler, which gives birth to enterprises. That's to me is youth entrepreneurship.
Now moving on to what this definition actually means, what is your assessment of Sri Lanka's youth in terms of their strengths as well as their areas for improvement?
Well, they're definitely creative, innovative, and they are very up to date with technology. In fact, sometimes they even question the status quo, which I think is a key strength. And an area where they could improve is probably if they can stick to the domain till the objective is achieved. Because I feel sometimes they do have the tendency to shift interest. And whenever I do get an opportunity to work with the youth, this is a area of focus where I do mentor them on.
So Gowri, you told us about their strengths and their areas for improvement. When we look at their potential, what are the prospects you see for youth entrepreneurs, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years?
When it comes to the youth, or even for the overall as an entrepreneurship as such, we have not really reached the full potential of it because our ecosystem does not support it either. But then definitely 25% of our population is all youth. And it's very important that how corporates and even the other chambers could get involved in mentoring and nurturing them, as I believe that education and training is important. And another area I would say is where it's not just your entrepreneurial journey, but then I think an entrepreneurial journey mixed with professional management and improvement on that skill set is, I think, would be a ideal place for them to grow as fully fledged entrepreneurs.
If I ask you, what are the areas or the industries that you find that they will have more opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship?
Very often people think it's IT related, but then I think youth could be utilized for so many things. Even if you look at, very often we think because they use digitalization as an enabler, We generally think they are for IT, but I think they certainly could drive any avenue as long as they're passionate about it, whether it's agriculture, whether it is an industrial, manufacturing, and so on.
Moving into my next question, if you ask a lot of youth today, everyone says, I want to be a businessman, I want to have my own business. Do you think that entrepreneurship is an ideal first step in a person's career, or should it be a subsequent step after a little bit of experience in corporate world, for example?
Well, as I said earlier, entrepreneurship is required. It should be mixed with professional management skills. Because very often what we find is you embark on your entrepreneurial journey, but then you lack the skill set to continue and to transform that model. So I would say education is important so that it disciplines your mind. And that's important for the sustainability of the enterprise. Because in my opinion, an ideal entrepreneur is someone who sets up a structure and where it can even go down after third or the fourth generation. So that's important. And for that, education and sound management skills is important.
Not just a good idea.
Not, of course not.
Gowri, in one of your previous answers, you touched on the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem. When we look at the Sri Lankan picture, what do you think the system looks like, the ecosystem, and what are the gaps that you see that we should really look at?
See, I mentioned earlier about that we have not reached the full potential of entrepreneurship because the ecosystem does not support. But then again, the reality is, if you see our economy, it shrunk by about 7.8% last year. So naturally, there are even the supply chain got dismantled with the rising cost of electricity, the taxes, and so on. So naturally, the ecosystem, the perfect ecosystem cannot be there in the background of it. So, and there is also for the youth, no one-stop institution where they can go ask for information, how to, where you get everything, like say, for instance, information on product certifications and how to market it, the manufacturing regulations and all that, and also lack of knowledge on financial literacy. So I would recommend that entrepreneurial ministry, if a dedicated one, can be created, if we can have one which can also connect with at the provincial level, so that we can pick up the capable and the talented youth and use their ideas, and of course find other ways of financing it, maybe get the corporates involved and commercialize these ideas. I mean, these are just some thoughts which I think might help.
Talking about furling the country, we are always talking about empowering more and more women to be entrepreneurs, because what they say is, when you empower a woman, you're empowering a family and a community. So looking at female entrepreneurs, how supportive is Sri Lanka towards them at the moment?
Well, if you look at the SME sector, 25% are women-run, women-owned. And even after the first lockdown, we noticed about a rise in the number of women starting their own business because it was just an extra income generator. They saw it like that. So of course, there are so many constraints like financial literacy is one, capacity building is a requirement, and educating them on how to work on digital platforms from marketing, packaging, and all that can actually be of help, so that the women whom we are saying are required to empower so that the community can be empowered could also balance their other roles such as housewives, mothers, and even social workers.
Talking of education, when we look at education versus mentoring versus setting an example, how should Sri Lanka use all three of these to really groom the next generation of entrepreneurs in the country?
Education is important, training is important, and of course, mentoring is important. So I think education, of course, should start with the education system itself. And of course, training is definitely important, because what I find is among the youth, the risk management, this is something where they really need training on. So these are things that we need to look at when where the youngsters require support.
It's time to take a short break, but we'll soon return to talk more about youth entrepreneurship.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. We're speaking to the director of Sunmatch company, Gowri Rajan, on youth entrepreneurship. Supporting grassroots entrepreneurs is essential to revitalizing Sri Lanka's economy, especially now. What steps are urgently needed in this regard, do you think?
I mean, we do have some incubators and accelerators now. I mean, we do have some in the country, but I think we need to have more of them. Entrepreneurial education is required, technology management, and also more R&D, research and development programs. Probably we need to have a mechanism where good ideas can be captured, and there should be a process for that, and to provide the infrastructure and also to check their commercial viability of that idea. Because what's important is to assist that entrepreneur to get his first order and connecting to the supply chain. A classic example is, I know of an entrepreneur who wanted to do some cards out of banana leaves, and that never really was accepted. It was basically rejected when it was presented. But then through some influence with the EDB officials, he was given an opportunity to go overseas for an exhibition, a global one. And today he employs over 40 people under him. So that's a classic example where we need to assist them, picking up their ideas and also connecting them to the global market.
Gowri, talking about assisting, looking at corporates, how can you touched this in one of your previous answers, but if we get into a little bit of specifics, how should and how can corporates really encourage as well as empower entrepreneurs?
Well, training them to go beyond the village or town, that's very important. But having said about the corporates, according to the AC Nielsen report, 73% of the households have reduced their consumption in grocery, personal care goods and all that. And their disposable income has come down in the last 3 months. So at a time like this, where the corporates are struggling, I'm not sure how much they could contribute, but certainly they can in at least some mentoring and training, because we do have to look at it positively. So maybe if each one can pick just a small number in the current situation, that should also help in a long way.
Gowri, my next question to you revolves around LMD's campaign, which we named Refresh Sri Lanka. And we launched this to encourage a mindset change, to create a more civic-minded society where everyone will look after the needs of everyone. So when we look at youth entrepreneurship, what are your focus areas to ensure that civic-mindedness is always there when we are trying to grow and support our entrepreneurs?
Well, it's a great campaign. I must congratulate the LMD on that. Professionalism and ethics are a key. And I believe my father, the founder of our company, which was founded 40 years ago here in Kundasala, Kandy, it was also based on his ethos were ethics. And the fundamental principle for success is, I think, is an entrepreneur should also be able to switch from that entrepreneurial mode or to the mindset, from that mindset to the managerial level where he could lead a company, and where it has to grow in a manner where you should be able to pick good talent and people with good management skills. And this is one place I think which any entrepreneur would, it's a challenge for them to let go of the company and also to be involved in the business. So empowering them and building capacity for the future is certainly one of it.
So Gowri, we are almost at the end of our conversation. But before we let you go, any closing thoughts that you would like to share with our audience today?
Well, yes, Sri Lanka as a brand was valued at $84 billion a few years ago by Brand Finance. But due to the economic crisis in the country, it has now shed, and we are at about 75 billion US dollars in value. So for us to drive the tourism and exports and thereby increasing and become $100 billion nation, a brand, we need to get the young entrepreneurs also involved, so that when you involve them on driving tourism, we also be able to get quality tourism, and also we can attract the right brand for even exports. So this is the background which of an entrepreneur thinking is needed.
So Gowri, thank you for that closing thought to our audience. But when we look at prospective entrepreneurs, maybe those entrepreneurs who have a good idea but are maybe kind of hesitant to take that next step, what is your message to them?
Well, those who are hesitant, I'm not sure whether they are hesitant because of lack of support, because when you take Sri Lanka, research finds that the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs are more clannish in comparison to the Western entrepreneurs. And I say this because we also don't have much of the support from the family, because if you go to the periphery and you see the parents will want their child to be either a doctor or an engineer or, hold a white collar job. But of course, things are improving. And we have found in cases where a youth without any business background wants to embark on an entrepreneurial journey, the support given is less. But of course, it has improved. So my message is hold on to your dreams, no matter what, because nothing in life is impossible. Because even for me, if you take, even though I come from a business background, I never wanted to be a businesswoman. And because I wanted to be actually a lawyer. That's on a personal note. But then the time came when I had to get involved in business. So even though I did not study, take that test for my A-levels or for my first degree, I started relearning everything from the inception. So I believe nothing is impossible as long as you set your mind to it.
Gowri, it's been a delight talking to you, and thank you very much for an inspiring conversation and for being with us here tonight.
Thank you, Ruwandi. Thank you for the invite, and it was a pleasure indeed.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.